that's a hard topic. It's a hard question to ask. It's like, well, should I carry? And if I do, can I use that? I thought Christians are supposed to be the pacifists. We're supposed to be always turning the other cheek. But Peter said, no.
Yeah, you ain't taking Jesus.
Yeah, no. Well, good Monday to you, fam. This is B.
And this is D.
Bringing you the soul opinions of two everyday Christians.
I'm real pumped. I'm pretty jazzed about this episode.
Yeah, same here. It's going to be good.
I'm pretty excited. It's been a little bit coming.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, I just want to interrupt. Is that okay?
Is this? Yeah.
Okay. We are crawling. I mean, we boomed. Okay. We're at around 140 right now. Okay. Subscribers.
145.
Thank you so much. It's unbelievable the amount. You know, everybody thinks that, 140 subscribers is such a puny little amount. I'm going to tell you, when it's happening to us, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I'm thankful. Thank you so much for the support. Both of us are super thankful. It's crazier than we could ever expect. That being said, it feels like if we don't do this now, it's going to start running away from us. And you guys have been so supportive. 500 subscriber giveaway.
Let's go.
We want to say thanks. So when we hit 500 subs, we are going to do a giveaway. And that giveaway is going to be, it's not going to be huge. We're kind of waiting for a pretty good giveaway on 1,000. But we are going to be giving away a Streamlight MicroStream USB. So it's USB, waterproof, rechargeable, IP7, waterproof, all that in the coyote color because I like coyote. And it looks good when you're carrying it every day. This is a perfect flashlight for your everyday carry.
I love it. That's awesome. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to that a lot. Thank you all for joining in. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into this. The topic of today that we're going to be talking through is a biblical and Christian viewpoint on the use of force. So about 3 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, Danny, we talked about should Christians carry, and it really seemed like that was a resounding yes, at least from us, and majority of our comments were all for it.
Yeah.
Then we went into and talked about a little bit on our feelings on that use of force, which is really just stopping a threat for the most part. We talked about that for a little bit, not necessarily taking a life, but just trying to stop a threat. Now, from that came several comments asking, I wish we had more of a biblical viewpoint on what it is that the Bible says about using force. And if you are interested about what it is that we talked about, you can hear that episode, watch that at the link here above. But let's jump into what does the Bible talk about when it comes to the use of force.
Yeah, I'm excited. We had a resounding positive feedback of all of our comments, which was huge. It was a lot more than I was expecting, and it did hit a certain vein, and we like not to be so much controversial, but we like to be in the vein of topic. Like let's talk about the things that are kind of hard and challenge us. And I believe that this topic, they had so many comments. This is what I do. I love it. Yes, but what about a use of force? Like, what does the Bible say about taking someone's life, or, in protecting yourself and all that stuff? Well, it made us, I mean, we all, like we say in the beginning of the podcast, we're just two Christians, two soul opinions, right?
Yeah.
And so it's our soul opinions, but as we grow, I hope you're growing. And we want to give you beneficial information, especially biblical. And so now it made us dig a little deeper. Okay, I know we believe what we believe, but why?
Yeah, and especially if you don't know who to ask, that's a hard topic. It's a hard question to ask. It's like, well, should I carry? And if I do, can I use that? Because, and we'll talk about this more, is I thought Christians are supposed to be the pacifists. We're supposed to be always turning the other cheek. We will dive into that. But one of the coolest comments was about, what was the scripture in Luke?
Luke 22?
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke 22 and 36. It says, Then said he unto them, But now he that hath a purse, let him take it. Purse meaning money, a little bag of money or purse. And likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one.
Kind of cut and dry.
And that was Jesus speaking.
Yeah, and it really is. It kind of plays to, not necessarily the use of force yet, but really advocating for carrying.
Sure. Yeah, being prepared, right?
Yeah.
Then my next thought, if I've heard about the Bible, if I know a little bit about the Bible, right? Okay, if he says to sell your purse, I'm kind of theatric about this because I'm pretty I love this topic. I really do. If Jesus says sell your purse and go buy a sword, then why did he say what he said to Peter when Peter was trying to, it looked like, protect him when Jesus was betrayed by Judas?
The Lord at that point, Jesus was surrendering himself. He knew what was happening because Judas came in to the Garden of Gethsemane where he was praying. He gave him a kiss, and then he said, the Son of Man is betrayed with a kiss. He basically surrendered himself to the Romans. But Peter said, no, that ain't happening on my watch.
Yeah, you ain't taking Jesus.
Yeah, no. He drew his sword and went at one of the guards. He cut off his ear, and the Lord stopped him. So doesn't that mean that he's not advocating for violence? Yeah, basically. Right. It doesn't mean that we can't protect ourselves. What he's doing here is he's saying, Peter, I'm good. This is supposed to happen, but you're being vengeful because this is wrong. I was betrayed, and now you're trying to take matters into your own hands when it's not warranted. I'm going to where I'm supposed to go. It's okay.
Man, that's powerful.
I know. I'm already getting chills just thinking about that.
Yeah, we might tear up a little bit too. That's exactly what Jesus was doing. He's saying he has his hands up to the Romans, saying, "I'm here, take me." And Peter was having none of it, and he was being vengeful in his feeling, right? And decided that was a good time to start taking ears and taking names. And he was about to take someone's name, I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah.
When someone's looking at this from a different perspective, right? Even us Christians, we're like, why would I carry? I have people in my church, love them to death. They just don't understand either. And I've grown up with people, they don't understand why. Right. But it's not so we can take vengeance. It's not so we can, by force, you're going to listen to me. Any totalitarian view is out the window. Right. It's quite the opposite.
There was a interesting comment from somebody who watched our video and said that and I can't remember verbatim, but they basically said, I don't feel that if you have enough faith that you should carry or that you should take any matters in your own hand, that the Lord's going to protect you. And that's a valid point. If that's how you feel, okay. And because I have my grandfather, not to get derailed too far, served in the military. He was in the Army in the Korean War, and he's told me that, mijo, I because I was a Christian, I did not want to take up arms, and I told them that, and they honored that, and he was a combat field medic, and has some horrible stories, my word. But that was his viewpoint, and that's okay.
To me, that's a strong dude. That's a strong mentality and faith, way bigger than a mustard seed. Let me tell you.
I know, no kidding. Whew. In our research, if I can pull up here in Romans chapter 13, verse 4.
Yep.
It says, for he is a minister. Let me back up. Let me go verse 3. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. And then verse 4 says, for he is the minister of God to thee for good. For thou do that which is evil, be afraid. Did I say that right? But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid. For he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Now, what it's talking about more or less is somebody that upholds the law. We could just say it's a police officer or some, in our current time, somebody that is out to protect the good doers from evil doers. And it's saying that they don't carry the sword in vain. So if you're doing bad, then you should be in fear of those that carry the sword. Yeah. But if you're doing good, then you're going to be praised by the same. But that, if we can bring it down to like our level, I'm not a police officer. You're not a police officer. Maybe you listening, you've never been in law enforcement. But that doesn't mean that you don't want to protect your flock, your home, your people. I would do that for my wife, for my kids, for you, and for your kids. Because if there's an evil doer, I would not necessarily be vengeful, but I would want to protect. And I'm not carrying my sword, my carry on my hip in vain, so that if somebody comes into my home or attempts to hurt somebody with, one of my kids or my wife or you with deadly force, that I couldn't return with the same.
Yeah, 100%. And that goes to say too, I might even be in a situation where I'm on the street. I don't even know. My training tells me I don't know this person, but I see this other person can cause great to deadly bodily harm. I have to do what I have to do now to stop that threat. Even though I don't know this person, they don't deserve that. That is where my training kicks in. Mm-hmm. That's my mindset, 100%. And you're probably the same. Mm-hmm. And most of you watching, most goodly, especially Americans, but most goodly people, when they see somebody being attacked, most of the good ones they'll step in. Mm-hmm. They'll do something. Mm-hmm. They'll do what they can. But if I'm prepared that day, then I'm prepared to stop that threat.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've probably seen videos or shorts on YouTube and other places of in other countries, somebody being attempted to be kidnapped or a purse being stolen or whatever, and you see people jump in and stop that.
Yeah, and it actually blows me away. Training says, even fist fights, if you see somebody stomping somebody, you have that right to tell them, you need to stop. Like, there was just recent, there's a big fight that broke out in Atlanta, the Atlanta Falcons game.
Oh.
Or something. I saw it on the news.
Yeah.
And there's a big fight that broke out, and this dude just kept stomping this dude's head. And I couldn't watch for much longer.
That's terrible.
But I'm like, okay, when the guy is on the ground, defenseless now, not doing anything, now it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Like, and you need to stop.
And because then it becomes a legal issue.
Absolutely.
Because you're not defending yourself anymore. He's defenseless, or she is defenseless.
Yeah. It's one thing to be in a physical altercation, but once that other person is defenseless, it's an issue.
That's it. The thing is that the Lord also said, which is about money. But the Lord said in the New Testament, render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, and unto the Lord that which is of the Lord. But he's talking about taxes, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But he also says to obey the laws of the land. And even though we believe in caring, we believe in protecting our, people, and even maybe somebody that we don't know, but if they're in danger to help, that doesn't mean we take it into our own hands.
Sure.
And we break the law.
Right. Yeah. Just like Peter, cutting the ear off of the Roman soldier, there was technically no threat. Jesus was giving himself. They weren't trying to murder him. They weren't trying to take his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was surrendering, and there was no threat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Jesus said, "Hey,
bro,
you need to stop."
Yeah.
Stop. A quick recap of what we've talked about. Luke 22, and selling your cloak, buying a sword, being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Then we talked about Judas betraying Jesus in the garden. Then Peter cutting his ear off. Jesus telling him to stop. And then we explain why. Because it was vengeful. Right? So there is, with God, there's always order. There's always balance.
Yeah.
Right? Then you talked about the authority. The authoritarian side. Like, you still need to beware.
And not carrying that sword in vain.
Yes, it is Second Amendment right here in the United States. Everybody thinks they have a right, but the law is pretty clear on if you can have that right or not.
Right.
So if you abuse that right, being a felon or dishonorable discharge, then you don't get to have that right.
Yeah.
And so you've got to obey the law of the land.
And kind of also, like, if, for example, if somebody's coming at me or my family with a knife, right, and I pull out my firearm and I say, stop, which is a good thing to yell first and foremost.
Sure.
You don't just start firing.
Depends how close they are.
But... Well, that's a good point. Okay, that's fair. So they're I don't know, 10 yards away, start running. I pull it out. I have 5 yards left. I say, stop. And they do. And they turn around and they whoop, and that was a mistake, and they run away. I can't shoot them in the back.
Yeah. Well, you just saved his life.
Yeah.
That's what you did.
Yeah. Put it away. We're good.
And you protected your families.
Yeah. And if I say, well, he might go after somebody else, so I better stop the threat now.
Yeah.
And I take that vengeful matters into my own hands and I shoot him in the back or her in the back. Now I'm liable legally that I committed a crime.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you feel, go through that with your training. Just imagine being downrange and somebody start firing at their target, at your target, when you're trying to address the target and fix it.
Yeah.
That's really the same premise. Like you have to be in control of that situation. Adrenaline does some crazy things.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. If you've never had adrenaline dump, you're not used to that kind of thing. Don't put yourself in high stress situations for the fun of it, but be mindful. Don't put yourself in that situation if you can. Yeah. Jocko Willink,
love that guy.
Beast of human, very highly trained in jiu-jitsu, ex-Navy SEAL. He's a commander. He says, if someone's starting something with me and I can tell that it's going to go into an altercation, he said, I'll run.
He doesn't need to.
Right. No. Trust me, you run from him.
Yeah.
But,
oh, yeah.
No, he blatantly says, I'll hightail it the other way. I want to get away from a threat at all cost. Now, if my family's there, it's a different story.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we have to draw this line. It's one thing if we're walking downtown by ourselves, but it's another thing when our flock is there.
Now, interesting point. So those of you that live in a stand your ground state. Now, what that means is there's a stand your ground, and then the other one is what's it called? Fight or flight? I can't remember what the other is. But if you live in a stand your ground state, which Idaho is, you're allowed to stand and draw your weapon in a situation where there is another lethal force being coming at you. But if you're not in a state, I think California is one where you have to run to try to get away first. You don't have that option if you're by yourself. So unless, and I'm sure there's other parameters in there, but so just in case that comes up and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, I'm going to stand your ground. Right? Yeah, true, you can stand your ground, but to your point, it's better to get out of there and not have to get into an altercation or have anything fired or anything worse than just running away.
Yeah, and a lot of these things are situational.
Oh, of course.
I did watch a video. Broke my heart. People are crazy. But it was one where how different would this be if he trained himself and had a firearm to protect his family and himself with, because he physically could not take this. It was a woman, bigger woman, not sure what drug she's on, literally carrying a knife around, like a kitchen knife. Had passed this family and started to try to stab their little toddler in the head.
What?
Yeah. And this might be graphic, but this is reality, folks. Like, you have got to see these opportunities. If you're not trained and you're like, man, I should get trained. Man, I should get trained.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for? Because it could be you in that situation. God forbid. We don't want that.
No.
And that's why we are trained the way we are, because of those situations. And this guy had no idea what to do. He was trying his best to get his girl away, but now there's a knife, which he's not trained to deal with. He doesn't have a firearm to stop it. Like, it's a big mess at that point.
Yeah, 100%.
And David protecting his flock.
You know, one thing that just before we get into David, it kind of leads really good what you just said into turning the other cheek, because let's say that's what the mentality was at that point, you know, and that's something that is an argument, that is a point that that Christians, and I think I've made that at one point in my life. Matthew 5:38 says, the Lord is speaking here, and he says, "You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth." This is the Sermon on the Mount. And verse 39, "But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also." Now, I haven't done a ton of research on this, but what I have found was a really good article that I shared with you, Danny.
Yeah.
And this article is talking about, well, the custom back in the ancient times, in that turn of the millennium, Romans would use this to basically distinct the classes. So if it was another Roman that was disrespectful, they tried to keep another Roman in line, they might punch him. So they're punching them with their right hand. Most of us are right-handed. It has been that way through all of mankind. They'll punch him, and it hits him on the left side of the cheek. But when it comes to, say, a Jew, that they were trying to subjugate the Jews, they would, with their right hand, slap them on their right cheek, which is a backhand motion. And that's more not a physical subjugation, but more of, I'm above you.
It's a humiliation.
Yeah, it's a dignity thing. So again,
just like it is today.
No, that's true.
I guarantee you, if somebody slaps me, I'm going to be like,
excuse me?
Oh, like, just feel about that big.
Yeah. And then you turn the other cheek at that point. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
But so this is more of not, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You slap me, I'm going to slap you. You hit me, you come at me. This is more of, if your pride is hurt, don't get vengeful and fight back. Turn to them the other cheek. Because it's just your pride. It's not a physicality. But that doesn't mean you don't stop a threat that might be coming after your family. That's a completely different story.
Yeah. Then just after that, he has to deal with Peter cutting off the guard's ear, and then he's saying, "Hey, dude, I just preached this not too long ago."
Yeah. So, and he really reiterates, he's not telling you not to defend yourself, but he is saying, don't be vengeful.
Yes. So in 1 Samuel 17, 34 through 36, it says, "And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him." So this was, there's many contexts in this scripture. He's saying David is watching over his father's flock, which technically, if we want to get technical, my family is the father's flock.
Ooh.
They are Jesus's. They are God's.
Before they're yours.
They're not mine.
Wow.
Technically. So David's out there watching over his father's flock, and here comes a lion, and it says, and a bear, okay, and took a lamb out of the flock. Then David went after him. So it's saying they took first action. Now they're going to, they took a lamb out of the flock for ill intent. Now I'm going after them. It's not, hey, I went after them first because maybe I thought they were going to do something bad.
Right.
And smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him. I'm going to stop right there. I dabble a little bit, and with my boy, he's 15, pretty big dude. He's going to be 16 in December. He's pretty fun to wrestle around with.
He's strong.
Very strong. And me and him like to dabble in jiu-jitsu a little bit.
Yeah, you do.
So we will roll together, and I'm going to tell you something. I could not imagine grabbing the beard of a lion and smoting him. Okay, and slew him. So however that was, I don't know, but I do know he was close enough to grab the lion's beard. So I say that to say this. I dabble, okay, in jiu-jitsu. I'm not a black belt. I'm not highly trained in that. But it looked like David was doing more than watching a flock. He was preparing for the day that a lion or a bear or some predator, something came around where he had to protect his flock.
I like where you're going with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
He hand-to-hand combat. This is not just about use of force on drawing my pistol and taking a life. This is use of force also with your hands and what you can possibly do to protect your family in the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
If that gun flies out of your hand, if that gun pops out, worst case scenario. You've got to think of every scenario. It looked like David was trained pretty highly with his hands to be able to kill a lion.
Yeah.
I mean, you can smell the thing's stinky breath that close.
No, thank you.
So 36, it says, "Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them."
I'm talking about Goliath.
"Seeing he had defied the armies of the living God." So we all know the story. David and Goliath grabs 5 smooth stones. Now, I've already talked to you about this and my thoughts. But what those 5 smooth stones, what would those be considered today?
Well, that's kind of the most ancient form of gun and bullets, if you will.
Okay. And we say that you're like, oh, man, you guys are silly. You guys are totally out of the ballpark with this one.
The projectiles.
Exactly. So when you fire a round out of pistol, rifle, anything, that is a projectile. Say, now our projectiles now move a lot faster than back in the day. But there is a guy on YouTube.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. Yeah,
that still practices and flings the sling.
Yeah,
and does that with rocks in the sling.
And he is sharp with that.
Very, very good. So not only was David highly trained in hand-to-hand, but he was highly trained with guiding a projectile. That's all. Technically, yes, the Lord was with him. And I believe the Lord, if you're following God right now, he's with you. And because he's not a respecter of persons.
Yeah.
But David, in his training, took that projectile and guided the projectile, whether it's a sling, whether it's a pistol, whether it's a rifle, shotgun. You're guiding through training that projectile to your target to stop that threat.
Exactly. Beautifully put.
So that's all he did on that day. And you made a pretty good observation on that, because all of our training now is center mass.
Oh, right. The biggest, if he was a giant, it would have been a perfect target, easiest to hit, right? But he didn't, because he had Goliath back then. Everybody wore breastplates to protect them from swords and things. He had a helmet on as well, but everything in the front was all open. So he took a shot at what was open to stop the threat.
And I believe, obviously, divine hand of God just said, maybe that shot was a little off or a little high. So it's like, let's knock it down a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could have been perfect because of all the training beforehand.
Yes, sir.
And I think that is so important, guys. If you haven't paid a little bit of money, I'm not saying we're all made of money, but if you've not paid some money to take some in-class training, get to know somebody in that field, whether you can trust somebody who has been trained SWAT, somebody who's been training in law enforcement somehow, some way. Get to know somebody somewhere to get on some good level training, so that way you are confident. We want you guys. Yes, it's like an old dog, new tricks. There's been so many times I've trained older gentlemen. Oh, I've been raised around guns, or I've had guns my whole life, and the whole time they're muzzling everybody, like, yeah, check this gun, and like everybody's like ducking and they're gonna shoot me. Well, it's just, don't be that dog. Don't be that dog.
Yeah.
Be the dog that can adapt and learn new things. Don't be the dog who's like full of pride, and then that eventually is gonna get yourself. It could be yourself harmed or your family harmed.
Right. And if the term muzzling is basically you're just pointing the muzzle of the gun, the front of the gun at whatever, and you're not with reckless abandon, if you will, just not paying attention. And that training, which you've taught me a lot, is never point a gun at anything you don't want to destroy. Rule number 1. It doesn't matter if it's your laptop, an animal, or a person. Don't point at anything you don't want to destroy, because chances are it's not going to go off. But if it does, it's not pointed at anything you don't want to destroy. So yeah, I agree. Get some training, even if it's just one class. It'll really help you understand law in your area, gun safety, so that you're just well prepared, and you can also prepare others, such as your family, your children. It's great. Do that.
So I always highly suggest, there's always the four rules of gun safety. and though that is one of them, but you have to also, there are so many accidental discharges with good people, because they don't think it's loaded, right? Make sure your gun safety is where it needs to be. Make sure you are willing to learn new things. Don't let your pride push you into the bad habits. Be better for not only you but your family and all those that surround you.
Amen, brother. And as we always say, if you want to learn more about the God that we serve, reach out to us. Send us a comment, send us a message. If you liked what you heard, please like, share, subscribe, and listen to that episode if you want to know any more about if Christians should carry. We'll link it right here in the end cap. And other than that, we love you, fam.
God bless. Love you guys.